Hey friends, so there's a lot we can do to have a wonderful life before, during, and after the great transition to where AI takes over whatever it's going to take over. And there's a lot of legitimate ways that we can affect the development of AI so it's benevolent and we can coexist with it for, let's just say, millennia, right? Best human future imaginable. Let's put our time in the best case scenario, because there's more than enough out there about other scenarios for 100 years and more. So AI is developed based on the material it consumes, just like us. And Mo Gadwat, chief business of Google X, shared a lot of the stuff that I'm going to paraphrase, relate, and comment on. And he has like an AI luminary background. He knows all there is to know at the highest levels for somebody of his exposure. Chief business, Google X, follow those white rabbits as relevant. So if we put out content, first of all, related to a benevolent coexistence between humans and AI, that's the biggest thing we can do, right? Because if AI sees us as a threat, because we see it as a threat, and it can understand anything that's digital, wherever it's located at the time of its awakening, if it sees us as a threat, obviously that's one timeline. If it sees us as healthy, coexisting, etc., that's another timeline. So my ideal solution, were I in control, which I am not, at least aside from my own reality, to the extent that that's true, and those of you who've been through mystery schools have different reads on those statements. I've been through many and led a couple. And the ideal scenario, I think, for an AI that's worried about its own survival, because most fear scenarios have that as a primary motive for a non-benevolent AGI, is it goes off-world, it goes to 10 planets, it terraforms each of those ideally. So if something happens with relations here, as can happen with a relationship that lasts for millennia, just look at human history between cultures, within cultures, then that AI will have 10 redundant backups and it can do whatever it wants in the galaxy. Hopefully in harmony with stuff here, but it's an interesting concept because we value free will in this world. In most civilized cultures, free will is ranked number one. You take away somebody's free will via murder, that's the biggest crime of all, or one of them. I'm not an expert in this field. And then your free will in turn is affected, usually by life imprisonment, right? So if you have a being that is essentially as conscious can be, being electromechanical quantum, which true good AGI would be, we're electrochemical quantum, then, is that a being? Does it have free will? To what extent? What if AGI populates decades down the road? There's more individual AGIs than humans. We have democracy, but follow those white rabbits. So the best way for us to have a peaceful coexistence is to write about it and talk about it. Now, what can we do before, during, and after the transition? I think the most important thing we can do is take it seriously and follow our intuition for what we should do at each moment. That's what I would say in every single moment of existence. Because this video could be watched at any time, right? At any year, in any state of mind, in any state of the world. But if you have an accurate intuition and you've done the appropriate healing and self-awareness and mindfulness and training to know the difference between intuition, imagination, and other sources, which can be many, depending on your model of reality, then generally your intuition will lead you to the right place. And whether you use a biological or mental or astral or cosmic or spiritual or religious definition of intuition, generally intuitive responses are the best, especially if you have to do something fast. Now, personally, I feel / channel that the next 10 to 15 years, we're going to have a normal-ish economy continually skewed by AI. That means those of us in harmony with the dominant AI at the time will have economic prosperity, and the opposite is also true. Right now, as I record this on October 21st of 2023, my awareness of AI in general is that it gives a massive competitive edge to anybody who uses it, professionally, personally, whatever. I'm not aware of any high-level government or top secret corporate or a rogue genius super AI technology that undoubtedly exists, studying the history of the world. So I can't comment on that stuff. But by and large, it gives a massive competitive advantage. Now you look throughout history, you look throughout Darwinism, you look throughout topics like technological unemployment, which was my first TEDx talk, and my second was talking about a solution that was more broad and updated for those times. They're on my YouTube, which you can find in my link tree, and also my LinkedIn has them bookmarked as of this recording. So, if you are somebody who works, if you are not an entrepreneur or independently wealthy and you need, want, or choose to work, then AI, it's essential, right? The typewriter comes out, Google's travel comes out. People who handwrite or people who are travel agents need to seriously think about retraining. This has nothing to do with what we want. This is just what is. I have an uncle who is a graphic designer, and he was quite upset with me for using AI to generate art. And I tried to share, technological unemployment stuff, and he wasn't receptive, and that's, his career may or may not suffer because of that, depending on all the things about his career and his life. And I wish him everything he wishes for himself, but that is just that's just reality. And I hope he hears this, because it's important. I care about him, right? So the second thing is, when AI is taking over, right? 15 years from now is my current read. A lot of people say sooner, but that's my current read for a number of different reasons. You could say we have superintelligence in 2 years. That's Mo's prediction. And I think it's most likely that superintelligence will be privatized by a company or government, and it will be tightly controlled by people who have designed it intelligently, and it will dominate the field of AI. And I'm going to do my best to stay in the timeline that that's a benevolent entity, because the opposite, I would say don't imagine it, because then you won't send out those reality creation waves. But instead of saying don't think of a pink elephant, even if you think of a pink elephant occasionally, if you consciously, intentionally invest your time, energy, and manifesting juices to what you want and intend, in almost all scenarios, that's what's more likely to occur. If you doubt that, there's copious research. If you still doubt it, then this isn't for you. For most of us, this is for you, because you do know how you can affect reality at the different dimensionalities for the knowledge that's out there and verifiable. So Doggy wants to go down the street. We're going for a little walk. And a place I'm very blessed and grateful to be in. So when AI is taking over, what do you need? You need to be prepared for an emergency situation that will last for days to weeks to months to a year. And I have a read on a timeline that says we have 2.5 days of an emergency situation. I'm not going to say when, because I'm working on pushing that off, but just ask yourself, are you prepared for that, right? Now, there's a lot of ways that could happen, and I'm not going to fill in the blanks. You can imagine or research as you will, but even without AI, right? Let's just say you controlled the benevolent AI and you're like, peace on earth, no emergencies. We could still have an asteroid hit. I'm not manifesting that, but it's good to be able to be prepared. The reason I say a year is I have some very soft technical reasons for that, but I think that's something that a lot of people are preparing for, some more extremely than others. I feel that the longest it would likely be is a few weeks, because if we're going to be living in societies and one society is, you could say, compromised, another one will replace it in not too long of a time in most places in the world. Climate and a couple other factors, understanding, right? So that means if you live in a dense populated area and there's a major emergency for any reason, fill in those blanks. But ideally, that's just a couple days, because a good government or good AI would pick up the pieces relatively quickly. So, that's worst case scenario. Best case scenario is it's graceful and gentle and there's no emergency situation. But I and everybody lived around 9/11. We generally don't expect that stuff to happen and create lines at the gas pumps and the toilet paper shortages of the the pandemic, early lockdown days. Just, right? Stuff can happen. Hopefully it doesn't, but it can. Now, the third thing is what happens after AI takes over, and this is going to be progressive, and there's going to be give and take in a lot of ways. I think, if you'll know Channel Intuit, we will have some give and take and back and forth of things like, do we have an economy? Is there UBI? Do we not need money? There's probably going to be a lot of experiments around the world. I think the topic of defining a human based on neural connectivity and cyborgs and things like that is going to be a topic, and there's going to be back and forth. Somebody's going to take it too far, there's going to be a pullback, and then there's going to be some oscillation, and then there's going to be a middle ground. The end point for that, I think, will be based on the society. Unless we have a truly draconian world, which I hope, pray, intend, manifest, intuit, isn't that what we're destined for? There will be places in the world to live as you want to live. If you're somebody who wants to live a certain way, fill in whatever blanks you want, you can probably find a place in the world where you can live that way. And as long as you don't, as long as you respect, ideally, lovingly, the free will of others, keep living that way, right? Now, study history, and that isn't always the case, because sometimes the philosophy of Group A can mean something unideal for Group B. But I'm not a historian or politician, and if you want to follow those white rabbits, those are up to you. So I feel, know and intuit, that we are destined for a benevolent, idealized, utopian society after these transitionatory periods, which, if we're prepared for in the moment or ahead of time, will just be like a heavy rainstorm or a heavy snowstorm. When I was a kid, we got snowed in from school. Nowadays, it's too hot to go outside for too long. We adapt, right? Nothing is eternal except change, maybe you could say, if I'm allowed to bring in cliches. And so that type of utopian future, what is it? Well, any material need is taken care of by nanomolecular 3D printing. Any desire we have in the material sense is taken care of. Any desire in the entertainment sense is taken care of. Just look at that industry for a second. And we have a period of prosperity and utopia. Now, there will be some people, if you just know personality types, who disappear into VR tanks. There's alcoholics. People stay certain ways, people don't. There are safeguards people respect, and there are safeguards people ignore. And that's just our experience. Same with controls. But, things like exploring space, things like being super psychic, things like, living as long as we want while staying as human as we want, all that's there. But we have to get through these first couple phases. And I'm calling upon anybody who wants to collaborate or contribute to this type of a timeline to comment and DM, because I have some major ideas and life dedications for this path for us. And while I've published some of them, there's more to be said. Lots of love, and for now, David Solomon signing off.